Blog Talk Radio.
Thanks for tuning in to Arthur Rafferty Show, Fridays live at 8 p.m. GMT UK time and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have an issue with the Icebusters or the Northern Ireland peace process? Troubles? Email andy@freedomtalkradio.co.uk. Be our guest. Skype us. Freedom Talk Radio 1. Arthur Rafferty on the Freedom Talk Radio Network, where the truth must come out.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. For my good friend Mark and Freddie, the horror show on a Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. But they made this good video for all the shows. So well done to you guys. Tonight we're back with Arthur Rafferty. His show is 8 p.m. 7 p.m. tonight, but it's normally 8 p.m. London, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 12 noon Pacific. A little bit early tonight, but yeah, do email us, andy@freedomtalkradio.co.uk. We will be speaking 10-15 minutes regarding the asbestosis. So anybody from the NHS in Northern Ireland, please wait, because we want to discuss, because we can't ever forget this, about the investigation that failed into Arthur Rafferty Jr.'s dad. So welcome to the show, Arthur. Just to say hello, and then I just got one or two things to read, and then you can take it from there. So, welcome again. So your dad, from the BBC News on the 4th of December 14, Arthur Rafferty's murder, police ombudsman finds no evidence of collusion, it says. Well, obviously Arthur's going to talk about that again in a minute. The investigation obviously found no collusion. The police did fail on certain aspects, which included destruction of a rifle used in the attack and loss of the suspect's interview notes. Now, that alone, let me read that again because maybe I'm going daft. The police ombudsman office said in this attack in 1974 in Newton Street in the August, where he was shot, Arthur Rafferty Sr., it says, the findings of the police, the RUC, the Royal Officer Constabulary, said that these failures were the destruction of a rifle used in the attack and the loss of suspects' interview notes. Well, how the hell can that not be collusion unless I'm going mental? It was obviously conveniently lost, and of course there's no proof that there was collusion in that respect, but how convenient that was, though, to lose that. And then they did hold the suspect as well, and of course nothing was ever done about that. The IRA in the end did admit the killing from one of their people. Yourself, Arthur, you think it was Scapitici, and it's very interesting, and then I'll let you talk, that Kieran Conway, which is a book author, and he did an article called Southside Provincial, as in the Provincial IRA, Southside Provincial. I'd got him wrong. I thought he'd put into his book that he knew about your dad's murderer, and who did it, i.e. Scapitici. I got that wrong. I misread the article. But, he was a very senior he was a very senior person involved in raising money for the IRA. It was questioned about the Birmingham and the pub bombings and the other bombings. And I'm not being funny to you, sir. You're a very distinguished barrister now, and you do good on that side of the world. But how the hell can you not, as an IRA senior member, not know who shot Arthur Rafferty in Newton Street in them days? I mean, and we offer our big hearts and a big email and a big telephone numbers that we've given you to come across to us and speak off air or on air. It doesn't really matter. Kim Conway, it's up to you, pal. It's your conscience. And being a true Irishman from Dublin, you know what that means. Anyway, Alpha Rafferty, Senior, your turn, my friend.
Andy, thank you very, very, very much. And as you say, if this chap wants to speak to me about my father, by all means, because I have spoke to all classes of people about his murder over this past 44 years. I know who murdered my father, and I was able to tell the police that, the RUC, the Ombudsman, the HCT. I had meetings with them time and time again, and I give them the names of not only Scapitici, but also the other 4 people who were with him, because it took 5 of them to take my father out. And Brendan Hughes was able to tell me word for word what happened exactly that night, and who shot my father, where he was shot, and how these people, after they shot him and left him lying in Newington Street bleeding to death, hopped into a taxi and went down to the New Lord's Road, to the Felons Club, to have a drink, and probably to praise themselves for a good night's work. And it took me long enough to find out who, but Brendan was able to, he phoned me, I went up to his flat, and we spent 2 long meetings, and he gave me everything that happened to my father and the names of the people that murdered my father. And the Ombudsman knew the very next day, the police knew, but of course the police always knew, because after all, Scapitici worked for them, he was their informer. So there's nothing that he done that they didn't know about.
And now I think you can. Sorry.
Yeah. As I'm saying, Andy, if this Dublin fellow wants to speak to me, by all means. But he knows no more than I know. But if he knows any more, I'd like to find out.
Yeah, no, that would be good. And like I commented, maybe that sounded a bit negative, but I didn't mean to come across that way. But being a senior IRA person that's now written a book and now turned good, being a barrister, he must have at the time known a little bit more, because Scapitici murdered between, this is estimate from the internet, it states in one article 57 people to 97. 57 of them the Ombudsman did an investigation on, and guess what? Most of these investigations, and I don't know who these people are, but the Ombudsman said there was no collusion, no this and no that. But so why has Bedfordshire, Chief Constable, leaves in July still, why did he open inquiry against Scapitici into all these murders if the guy never murdered anyone? And the bit that puzzles me, Arthur, and you can carry on after this, is if they think Scapitici's killed, let's call it 20 people out of all them numbers, and they've got proof on that and he'll go to jail, why is the one murder so important? Arthur Rafferty, worker, your dad, why is that so important to be kept covered up? That bit I don't get. I can understand if all the murders are covered up, but if you get sentenced for whatever, how many murders he's actually done, or will they find him not guilty of any murders? And why are the police protecting him today? And if you want to mention what you told me earlier about certain relatives of Mr. Scapitici, please do so. If not, then we'll just leave it at that.
Yes, Andy, as I'm saying, the police are known that Scapitici was their jewel in the crown. He was the chief nothing officer in Sinn Féin ARA, and Sinn Féin ARA knew everything that he was doing. And I know for a fact he shot at least 25 of his own members because he convicted them of being touts. Like, he had a cheek to talk about anybody when he was a chief tout. But he had the right to take them men, married men with children, and shoot them in the back of the head. And Sinn Féin ARA knew all about that. The police knew all about that, and they done nothing. So how in the name of God can you call them a police force?
Yeah, well, it's not personal, I don't think, to Northern Ireland. The police in our country are definitely corrupt. But, yeah, I mean, our police forces in the UK, Scotland, and not so much in Scotland, but Wales and England, they came more corrupt after the peace process. Sorry, forget the peace process. After the Northern Ireland peace problems, where there was murders every day and bombings around the country, the police then after that in our country, this area, became more corrupt. And it must be linked because, you know, it's politics and religion. It must be linked.
Well, only what this fella has done to me, he's put me through 44 years of pure hell. And I was told by other people that he was going to make his entrance into Belfast again, about 6 months back, or less. And the police were there to pick him up from the airport, to drive him where he was going in a black limousine with dark windows up to a chapel on the Falls Road to bury his father. And I was told just too late. And when I got up, the time I got up and had arrangements made, he was just in the taxi, in his black car again, and the police ushered him out and took him back to the airport. So how in the name of God can those police justify that? That man is a mass murderer, and he's killed innocent men, women, and children. And they're chauffeuring him about as if he's something special. That's what annoys me, Andy. And every time I've asked the police that question, they've avoided it. They won't speak to me.
I'm not on anybody's side, and you know that. I'm just trying to look at it from a neutral point of view. I do know, you know, this is what makes me laugh. I was just laughing a little there. I know people have their human rights, you know, so they do have a right to protection from intimidation or people want to kill them, you know, and they do have a right to see their family buried in safety and comfort. But then I look at it a different way. Why can't you have that peace of mind and that human right to see justice for your dad? It works two ways, doesn't it?
It does, Andy. And the death my father got, they took him out of a pub. They marched him around in Newton Street. Raffertys came out with another ARA man armed with a hand pistol. My father seen them, knew something was up, like normally, and tried to run down the street. And they ran after him, and they were practically on top of him when Raffertys opened up 12 rounds he fired on.
Did your dad...
7 of them missed him, and 5 of them cut my father practically in two. And that man must have suffered.
I was going to say, did your dad ever, you know, I think I've asked you before, but I can't remember. Did you ever have conversations with your dad in hospital? Did he ever think who it was or why it happened? You know, because remember you told me in one of the reports it says it was a mistaken identity.
Well, the police on Mun's report has said, the police have said it quite possibly was a mistaken identity because they have checked all the facts about anybody being abused, any child being abused, and there's no such report. And I myself take 6 months off my work to go around the hospitals in Northern Ireland, the clinics, and not one report. So therefore, but of course, when you look at the record of Sinn Féin ARA, when they shoot people, they love saying that the man was a paedophile or the son was a paedophile or whatever, just to make, they're not content with shooting a person. They want to blacken his name and his family. But they made the mistake with my father. They thought I was like the rest of the people, but keep my mouth closed. I've done the work, and I would do it again. I found out who it was, what it was, and that was one of the lies. And the person that runs that organization has the audacity to call anybody a pervert. when he looks at his own family. That's what annoys me. And I've told the police that. But there again, they're never going to do anything because this fella is untouchable. They've given him his name, he's untouchable, and that he would never stand trial for any one of his murders. And that, in a civilized country, can't be right. And the human rights people here in Northern Ireland are standing here doing nothing because they are run by the British government. And they're told what to do and what not to do. And I've been down at them dozens of times to tell them my story. They know it off by heart, but they do nothing.
No, absolutely. And what I was thinking when you was talking about that, and then I came across some Scapitici stuff that's breaking news in the last 2 hours. I've still got that there. Now, what was I thinking? Yeah, they probably won't do nothing. It is very complicated, isn't it?
If you know as much as I know about Scapitici, I've lived his life now for 44 years. The police and the military here, the MPs here, if you want to call them that, can't touch him because he is untouchable. The British government give him amnesty for all of his murders.
Well, anyway, the breaking news, I forgot my train of thought on that one. It's the 9th of May, 2019. That was yesterday then. I don't know why it's only just appeared on the internet today, just now, when I Googled his name. State now, Freddie Scapitici faces more than 30 lawsuits. I'll read it out.
Yeah.
A West Belfast man who denies being Britain's former top spy, or he still denies it, inside the IRA is now facing more than 30 potential lawsuits. The High Court, yesterday obviously now, has learned. Writs have been issued, private lawsuits have been issued against Freddie Scapitici, 72, in at least 24 separate related cases. Legal action has also been threatened by a further 7 individuals over alleged kidnappings and interrogations and mistaken identity. The scale of litigation was revealed as police thought as an S, to protect material produced by a major probe into the agent codenamed State Knife. Bedfordshire Police Chief Constable John Butcher, who is heading the Operation Kind investigation, says he believes he has uncovered evidence of criminal wrongdoing by both IRA security force members and Fred Scapitici. A judge was told he now intends to submit a report from consideration on potential prosecutions either by the end of the year, 2019, or early 2020. Just trying to find if there's anything else. He was the grandson of an Italian immigrant, and he is, the rest is a bit rubbish. But Justice Horner was told application for these proceedings are now closed. So I'll read it. It says ring-fenced. Mr. Justice Horner was told applications for closed material proceedings, so-called secret court hearings, is being considered for some of the cases due to the issues of national security. Somebody was talking about that today. We have secret courts for children being adopted or stolen by the state. We have secret courts or secret employment tribunals, when you have an employment issue. Everything seems to be secret. And now Scapitici, if you want to sue him, it has to be done in secret. Due to national security? Bollocks. I'm sorry, half of the swearing, and I don't normally, but the new figure emerged as counsel for the police set out the case for ensuring Operation Canova's working papers are ring-fenced from disclosure in the civil claims. I know you don't kind of know what that means at the moment, but I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Andy, I know this fellow, John Butcher. I've had at least a half a dozen meetings with him and his team. the man, I don't want to call him any name, but Raffertys will never stand trial for any of his crimes. He has been giving that assurance by the British government on the RUC PSNA. And if he was to go into court and swear and tell the truth about these people, well, the RUC right away will have to be disbanded. And the top people in politics in Britain will have to leave the country. And John Butcher, no harm to the fella. He's only doing his job. He's only an ordinary policeman he's taking the British government on. And he's a British man himself. So you don't have to be Einstein to work that one out. That's just to pacify the public. They'll take them cases to the court behind closed doors. The judge will be there just to sit on board, and that's it. End of story. The same as the case over in England 4 or 5 weeks back. They took him in the back door. Bang, bang, bang. Out you go. The police take him out the back door. This fella is lifted and laid as if he's someone special. And he knows that. He has the British government backing him. And no harm to John Butcher. I take his words with a small pinch of salt.
Yeah, no, I've just realised that what's going on then, unless you got your claim in already to sue the guy,
yes.
I mean, you won't get no money out of him anyway, but there's all these private prosecutions going on. It's going to be held in secret courts like it normally is due to national security, and they're hoping that the criminal investigation, does something. But do you know what what you're supposed to do in law? And I'm not no legal, but I've heard it on most shows now from most experts. You have to solve a criminal case or an inquiry before you let anybody go into a civil lawsuit. So again, the civil prosecution procedures are being they're lying to us. If somebody's suspected of criminal activity, I'll put it a different way, there has to be an investigation. There has to be an inquiry. The inquiry has to be finished. Then you can sue that person if no criminal charges. If anything else happens differently, which it now is, reported in Belfast Telegraph and the BBC in the UK, then it's corruption to the highest level. And that you can actually now call John Bolger assisting lies, because he probably is.
And another thing, the only people who's going to make money out of this is the court services and the lawyers and the solicitors. And then it has to be put to that organisation called the PPF to make their mind up, well, he is going to stand trial or not. And the PPS is run here by the Chief Constable. So that you can put two and two together on this is only a whitewash.
Yeah,
and pacify the people, to keep them quiet, to say that John Butcher is doing something for his money. Because after all, the taxpayer is paying them people big money.
Yeah, it's the same over here. It's a public prosecution service, basically, in a nutshell. Right, okay, then let's move on, because we've got 5 minutes of live, and then we've got 15 minutes of non-live. We've actually,
Andy, as that Dublin lawyer wants to speak to me, I speak to him. Or if he wants to speak to me in private, by all means, you have my number there. My number's on my site anyway.
Yeah, YouTube channel.
Yeah, and I'd be glad to speak to him.
No problem,
because
sir.
If he doesn't know who Murdoch Raffertys, the game's wrong. Because Brendan Hughes was one of the top men, and he knew every move he made. So there.
Okay,
Read about that.
Yes, at this point, we're going to, because I labelled the show Arthur Rafferty's NHS Belfast Trust misdiagnosis of asbestosis. And in this story, each week we're going to name another doctor. It's Dr. Wendy Anderson's turn. Now we're going to do it properly in one show in the future. We're going to do every doctor in one go, but misdiagnosis. Now she now is the actual medical director in the Northern Trust. She's actually the cancer specialist and lung specialist of Northern Ireland. I think she's been promoted somehow, Dr. Wendy Anderson. Now, I've been I don't know a lot about medical, but I've been reading stuff, and I did have an appointment with my wife's GP today, and I told him, quickly what was going on in your case about the misdiagnosis and all that. And do you believe about the thing that we were told by somebody that we shouldn't name at the moment? Yeah, and they said, no, that's totally wrong. And I said, well, okay, then what about this particular doctor who said no? Apparently, he said, it's off the record, and you've not told me who the person is, because I didn't. He said, if two doctors in the service have said that you have asbestosis, then even a professor of it, you just can't change the diagnosis once it's been done twice. So that cause two experts are saying yes, two experts are saying no, or less of an expert is saying no. One of them is, and one is an expert. You had two doctors saying yes. Basically, the rules are you just cannot. It's bad for the NHS. It's bad for doctors worldwide. If two people, it's a bit like, in fact, he said it's a bit like mental health. My wife's got mental health, so that's why he said that. He said, if two doctors say your wife's got mental health and two doctors said she doesn't, then she's got mental health. Because you have to believe the professional. And it's the same in your case, Arthur. You definitely have asbestosis. Yeah.
Of course it is. That's what I'm saying. Dr. Joe Kidney diagnosed me 6.5 years ago, and I was attending his hospital. No trouble. Then all of a sudden, Dr. Tony Stevens, he comes on the scene and sends me to see that doctor in the city. And he never left his chair. He was reading Joe Kidney's reports, and from them reports, he phoned Tony Stevens and says, Mr. Rafferty does not have asbestosis. So how in the name of God can that happen?
One thing I didn't ask earlier on, because in all cases that I try and deal with, I try and get evidence. Do you have any evidence of them saying that you don't have asbestosis?
Well, I have evidence here now for the person that you spoke of there, Dr. Anderson,
okay,
from Dr. Tony Stevens. I'll just read it to you, Andy, if you want.
Yeah, go on.
Mr. Rafferty, Dr. Anderson has now provided her report. I understand that, in her opinion, you have not developed asbestosis. This should be a great reassurance to you and confirms the earlier advice you received from Dr. Joe Kidney. Dr. Anderson recognizes that you do still have respiratory symptoms, which has been and has offered you a review appointment and the opportunity to undergo further investigations under her care. You now have a chance as to whether you transfer yourself to her care and possible further treatment to Dr. Anderson at Antrim Area Hospital, or continue to receive care and treatment within the Belfast Trust. I would be grateful if you could advise both ourselves and Dr. Anderson as soon as possible as to where you wish to continue being seen. There is some urgency in this case, as Dr. Anderson has offered a review appointment within the next couple of weeks. I appreciate your patience in dealing with the diagnostic uncertainties you have experienced. I hope the progress that has been made will ease your mind, and Dr. Anderson's professional input will provide you with increased confidence in the care you receive. If we can be of any further assistance at this time, please feel free to contact Dr. Joe Kidney, Mrs. Mickey Vincent, or myself.
Wow.
And this is coming from a doctor that says, I didn't have it.
Yeah, I don't think I've got that copy. I need to look at that one. But anyway, listen.
I'll get a copy of it too.
I've got it doesn't matter who I got this from, but I've got this letter. It's on a new website which will tell you soon. In fact, we'll tell you now. It's nhsmedical.co.uk. That's nhsmedical.co.uk. It's a new website for highlighting cases of misdiagnosis within the National Health Service. NHS Medical is actually Northern Highland Society. That I'm in the North Highland of Scotland, NHS Medical, and that's why we've called it that. We've not called it that for no other reason. This letter says it is my view. Obviously, he's not jumping up and down in his letter, this gentleman, but it's his view, and you have to say that you believe him, view, opinion, that this gentleman, Alpha Rafferty, does actually have pulmonary fibrosis. I'll talk about that in a second. His asbestos exposure, certainly sounds to have been sufficient to have contributed to the causation of his pulmonary fibrosis. It is my opinion, therefore, that this gentleman actually does have asbestosis. On auscultation, I can't say that, of his chest, probably, they've done x-rays and all that. There were bilateral crepitations, which were both coarse and fine in character. This gentleman does have also bronchitis and possible bronchitis with mucus hypertension, hypersecretion. I mean, because he was a doctor and the dust exposure. But in plain language, you're bringing up a lot of mucus and phlegm. You've got problems with your lung lining. It's hard to breathe. It was caused by asbestosis and pulmonary fibrosis. If anybody never knew what that actually was, and that may be the key here. You may not actually think. Some people think because of the diagnosis, you've actually not got asbestosis, but the pulmonary fibrosis itself, from the NHS, says it's very rare that a standard person would live more than 5 years. You would live to a little bit longer should you have been looking after yourself, and you're very lucky. Alpha Rafferty, you've been living a lot longer than that. So, but pulmonary fibrosis is the stage before the last stage, which is that word I can't remember, and you get cancer and you die. Yeah, and you die within a year. So, wow. How did you manage to fight all that?
But only one knows me, this fellow, Dr. Tony Stevens and Wendy Anderson. He said to me, he then referred me to Wendy Anderson, who, Anti Mayo Hospital, who I was led to believe was an asbestos specialist. This doctor was then able to diagnose me not with having asbestosis, no pleural plaques, no bronchitis, all by sounding my chest for no more than 20 seconds and asking me if I worked at the Belfast docks unloading asbestos. From this sounding, she came to the conclusion that I, in fact, have suffered from small lungs, a brain abnormality due to the fact that I was a professional boxer. The medical report she conveyed to me was diabolical, and how this woman came to the conclusion that she was sitting at her desk, she got up and tested my chest for 20 seconds and sit back and just went back to her chair. That's diabolical.
Well, also, people, I've got the evidence that, we haven't got it pre 18 years before, but in the last 18 years, Arthur's been diagnosed with asbestosis. He's been diagnosed with osteoarthritis, asthma, ruptured long head, biceps, tendon bilateral in both arms, diffuse pulmonary fibrosis, bronchial, that thing I can't pronounce. I couldn't pronounce Scapitici before, but now that's easy. And he's been diagnosed in 2009, and this is what's so funny about the whole thing. So let's go back. 2001, diagnosed at the Mater Hospital of asbestosis, and 2009, diagnosed for a second time with asbestosis. It actually makes you laugh, doesn't it, what they're doing? And all Belfast NHS Trusts have to do is agree, basically, to tell the truth. I'm sure Arthur's not in this for money, although it helps a little. But Arthur's out for truth and justice. And this is why the first part of the show was about his poor dad. There is corruption and collusion going on everywhere in the world, but in particular, it seems to be systematic in Northern Ireland, which is a shame because, the politicians, they did well by having an agreement with the Good Friday Agreement. But look what's happening now. Nobody's talking, Parliament's not sit for a long time. There are some good MPs out there, which I don't need to mention on the show, but hopefully the one in particular that we're writing to will help Arthur again like he did before.
But on if they come in there, for this person to say small lungs. I was a professional boxer. I had 25 fights as a pro. And before every fight, the doctor gives you a thorough checking. And where the small lungs come from is beyond me, because I worked for 30 years at that dock, working hard work. And I've never heard of a person having small lungs before. And a brain abnormality. Where did that come from?
Well,
it's insane. If you don't mind, I wrote a letter to Dr. Tony Stevens about that. It's only a short one. Is it okay to read it?
No, carry on. We've got 8 minutes.
Dr. Stevens, in response to your letter of the 16th to 9/08, will you explain to me how Dr. Anderson came up with her diagnosis without even giving me an examination? All she did was sign my chest, and by doing that, she said, no asbestosis, no pleural plaques, no lung disease, no bronchiectasis. This all comes from a 2-minute sound of my chest. As bronchiectasis, I have a scan from the Mother Hospital showing that I do suffer from bronchiectasis in 2007. I suppose that scan is telling lies too. As for the report from Dr. Anderson, she did not need 2 opinions to give her a result. Let me reassure you that her report is a complete whitewash, and I cannot believe that a doctor would be allowed to do that. I am writing to the GMC about her. As for your urgency to make an appointment, I have already seen Dr. Kisney, and I will not be going to see both Dr. Kisney or Dr. Anderson again. And I pity people going to the Antrim area hospital if she's still a doctor. Yours faithfully, Arthur Rafferty.
She's now been promoted to a medical director for the region. Now, I've been quickly Googling, can boxing cause small brain or brain damage? Yeah, yes, obviously it probably can, but you would have memory loss, you would have headaches, you would have maybe bleeding on the brain if it's severe. You would even develop Parkinson's a lot earlier than normal. You're 79 years of age, 80 in December, and you know what? You're the most, everything you've told me from today, even 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when I first heard about you and first talked to you, you say the same thing today as you did then. And if you've got a memory problem because of boxing, then it would have shown by now. And you haven't got it in your medical notes from what I see, but this is a whole reason for getting all your medical notes from the hospital. But more importantly, we said earlier on, get your medical records from birth from your GP, because that will show if any of the hospitals have, even before this has happened, there may be a record somewhere where a doctor is saying, "Oh, Arthur's experiencing this trouble. He might have a small brain, or a brain injury, or whatever." And then what's happened is, over the years, they're then now using this as an excuse for, misdiagnosing you. So you need all these records, and once you've got them, we can go and party, because I don't think for 1 minute that what they say is true. And I asked them, not so much to come on a show, because, we don't want to bring them down that way, but why don't they make a statement proper about your case, all of them, every single doctor in this case, make a statement between them and talk to you and me or anybody else that wants to witness the conversation, so, in person, in their buildings, so you can come to the bottom of this. Now, the last 4 minutes, we're going to talk about a person unnamed, and she said, or he said, can't remember now, you can't get diagnosed with asbestos unless you're dead. Do you want to highlight on that? But don't name this person at this minute.
Yes, only. I was speaking to a person during the week. I'll not mention her name, but she works in the Belfast Trust. She said that doctors find it hard to diagnose people with asbestosis. The only way you can tell if a person has asbestosis is when they die, and doctors look into it then. So therefore, doctors cannot diagnose a person with asbestosis if they're still alive. You have to die before they can make a proper examination of you. And this came right from one of the top people.
Well, you could say the horse's mouth.
No, the horse's mouth. Another thing, only just as I may, I have a letter here from the doctor who diagnosed me with asbestosis, Dr. Werberson. It is a nice view that this gentleman does actually have terminally fibrosis. His asbestosis exposure certainly sounds to have been sufficient for me to diagnose him with asbestosis. In my opinion, therefore, this gentleman actually does have asbestosis. This gentleman does have also bronchiectasis and possibly bronchitis with mucus hypertension from his long-standing dust exposure while working for 30 years as a doctor at the Belfast Docks. That's one thing that these doctors here wouldn't know about, how to tell the truth.
I think I read that one out myself. Let's sort of, we've got 1.5 minutes. We can highlight that we have a union representative from Scotland. We won't name him at the moment. He will come on the show in the next couple of weeks or month or so. He will highlight the problem in Scotland is, what's the word? It's at such a level, being misdiagnosed or not being diagnosed at all, or people are losing people with no compensation without any rights. They're doing rallies in June. They're doing in Glasgow in June. So Google asbestosis and the Clydesdale Action Group for Asbestos. Google that, because they're doing a rally in June. They've done one in Aberdeen recently. This gentleman is from a union, Unite the Union, and he's coming on. We're going to team together, and we're going to get to the bottom of this, whether it kills us or not. Final comments for you, Arthur?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Thank you very much for helping me to expose these people, but there's hundreds and hundreds of other people like me worked at the Belfast Docks. Half of them now are dead, and half of them were diagnosed with some with asbestosis and others with not having asbestosis, and that's cruel. Because these men worked along with me. But there's nobody now to fight for them, even our union. When you went to our union to express that to them, for our union to stand up